Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the WayForward Chat podcast. I am your WayForward social media tinkerbat Hoff, coming to you live from ringside. And I am joined, as usual, by my regular co-host and WayForward head of BizDev and Publishing, Adam Tierney.
Hello.
And this week, we have a special guest with us, that being Paul Gale of the Paul Gale Network and one of the hosts of IndieMania, which is an indie games-focused online video event that will hit the interwebs 1 week from today on June 26th, starting at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. WayForward will be part of that event where we'll be talking about our upcoming releases like Shantae Advance Risky Revolution, and there will be an interview with some of the crew. But today we are flipping the script and we're going to be asking the questions of Paul about his career and IndieMania and how he got here. So, Paul, welcome to the WayForward Chat and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Before we get going, I do want to mention to everyone that we will be taking audience questions later, so feel free to ask them in the YouTube or Twitch chat, and we will do our best to answer those later in the show. Please preface them with a Q colon so we know they're intended for the Q&A. Anyway, yeah, let's get started here. So, Paul, what is the Paul Gale Network exactly? How many people are in this network? How far does it reach? Has this network infiltrated every corner of our society yet?
All right, that's your own podcast playing. Well, the best answer maybe for what is Paul Gale Network could be a rewind in time to the origin of how I came up with it, if you want to go back that far.
Sure.
Okay, so this is rewinding back to E3 2006, which was my 7th in-person attended show. I began going to E3 in 2000, and in '06, at this time in the video game industry, I had already met quite a good amount of developers, voice actors,
Hmm.
musicians, publishers, folks from different walks of life across the video game industry, and just was personable. I would like to talk. I appreciated people's times. I always walked up to somebody with a smile, and I never barged my way in, and eventually started to go from contacts to friends. And here is the closing of E3 2006, and I'm talking with Charles Martinet, which most people probably are aware of his career. He is voice of Mario, Luigi,
Yeah, it's a
Wario,
him.
Waluigi, etc. Yeah, and he's a fantastic human being, excellent person, and we knew each other for a few years at this point. And I'm talking to him at the end of E3 '06, and then up comes from the side another friend that I've had for several years, Tommy Tallarico. He used to be on a show, Electric Playground, Judgment Day, with fellow co-host Victor Lucas. Also was beginning his own video games live thing, which was taking his love of music behind video games and creating live orchestrated concerts all around the world, in which he was about to launch his first one that summer. And I saw these two coming up to me kind of at the same time and realized I don't think they know each other really or have that big of a connection, despite me having a connection with them. So I was talking to Tommy and Charles and saying, Charles, this is Tommy. Tommy, this is Charles. It would be really neat to have, perhaps if you have time to fit in your schedule, Tommy, at a Video Games Live coming up, here's the voice actor of the Super Mario Brothers series, Charles Martinet. And since it is all about music and audio, maybe Charles could come up on stage and do a, "It's me, Mario, welcome to Video Games Live, woohoo!" and do a little something. Or if, for Nintendo license purposes, can't do his voice, at least be there. And I bridged together this conversation, this idea. And they thought, wow, that's really great. Maybe on this side, maybe I could. Oh, my mother's birthday is coming there. Oh, maybe I'll be in California at this time. Boom, 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 boom. But I kind of used my networking skills, my gift of gab that I like. Thank you.
Okay.
And brought these two together and introduced a fun concept. And then they both said,
Networking begins.
really good networking. Paul Gale with the network. And like, they said it a couple of times. They both did it. And then, we went about the end of our E3 closing, and then Nintendo takes us behind scenes, shows off the Wii and more, private closed room kind of settings and that kind of thing. And then I was sitting on that idea. I'm like, you know what? For a few years now, I go to these shows, and at the time, I was working for Gamers.com and OneUp.com eventually, which was the follow-up site to Gamers, which was the online site for the video game magazine, which was Electronic Gaming Monthly. And I'm going
Mhm.
do the shows, E3s, and supplying E3 Q&As to the entire audience in the message boards and to the forums, answering every single question about every game, every booth, every setup, etc. Who did I meet? Pictures of the event to all of the gamers. My way of trying to bring on a little bit more personable level the show to the thousands that are at home that can't
Okay.
necessarily go.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking like, well, what else do I do? Like, gosh, I talk a lot and stuff. And so over the course of the year, finally came up with, by the time '07 rolled around, allgalenetwork.com. And then at the beginning, the site was just a launching site of here are now all of the different people that I've met, and not just from the video game world, but that was a big part of it, but from video games, from martial arts, from voice actors, from different facets of life that were my sources of entertainment, my passions. And this website had pictures and bios and stories of our interactions, in which basically I would vouch for this person. So if other people came across my site and said, I'm looking for uh, a woman in her young 20s to be a model that fits this kind of visual demographic for my upcoming game, for my upcoming booth at a show at a San Diego Comic Con. You could look at talent agencies and you could find that out. But if you wanted to look through my site, like, who would you vouch for, Paul? Who do you know that you like that you could say, that's a good person, that's a good worker, you've had a personal connection with them? I could vouch for that person. Someone's looking for a voice actor. Someone's looking for a free talent who is, I've helped out authors, writers, get jobs and linked up. This was just what I did. And on a smaller level, over time, who did I know? Who did I vouch for? And you would kind of come to my site because if you were on my site that I vouched for you, you knew this was kind of my work ethics. This was kind of my modality of thinking that if you were cool enough with me, probably the person I'm introducing you is cool enough with me, and you could probably trust each other through trusting me, if that all makes sense. And then the site kind of continued to grow, and it was just connecting more people in the industry by networking together. And then eventually the site became this network of ideas beyond just networking people together. It was networking myself. Here's my video game sales analysis. Here is my rumors and speculation. Here are some just standard articles covering the industry. Here are some reviews. Here are some martial arts tutorial. Here are some exercise and fitness advice. So I would write articles. I would go to shows. I would still conduct interviews for different companies and different magazine outlets and stuff like that, and just continued to work independently. And then the site became what it is now. And now it's kind of more than just the site. Now it is the whole social media aspect of it, where I'm on X, I'm on Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. But pretty much I'm doing the same thing, which is connecting people still conducting interviews. And now, beginning last year, being one of the co-hosts of IndieMania, which, as you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, is an independent video game developer show that is designed to highlight as many talented devs around the world, big, small, first time, or seasoned success stories like WayForward, who have been around for 35 years, and just
Mhm.
show off games, conduct some interviews, give some updated looks. Basically, all of the passion and the hard work that developers have, sometimes they need an outlet. And, not to take more credit than need be, but sometimes the most difficult thing is having that, oh man, I know I have the confidence in something that I did well. Who's going to see it? How do I get it out there? We've spent all of our budget on developing this thing.
Sure, it's
Have
tougher
your
than
own
ever.
YouTube channel. Yeah. You have so many sources, but then again, everybody's also doing it, everyone's got the same idea. So here is, our show, which last year was a 3-day show that happened in September. This time around, it's going to
Mhm.
be a 1-day, longer day, but just everything in 1-day show that goes down on, yeah, upcoming very soon, just a week away, June 26th. But
Yep.
yeah, I kind of went from PGN into Indie Mania, but that's a little bit of the site, who I am, and yeah, where I came from. And that's not even how I got into the E3 for the first time. But I mean, maybe you want to know
Yeah.
that one too. But yeah, Been around a
Yeah, all
while.
right. Yeah, thanks for all that info. I'm glad to know that yeah, it really is about networking. It's not just a name. And yeah, actually, I did want to turn back the clock even further to sort of get your gamer origin story. Like, how did you get into video games to begin with? Like, just as a player.
Yeah. So I'm 41. I'll be 42 in just a few weeks. Yeah, July 7th coming up, right in
Oh, early
between.
happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you. I should say actually right before Donkey Kong Bonanza. It goes my birthday on the 7th, Bonanza on the 17th, and my wedding anniversary on the 27th. So it's kind of nice to see
Hmm.
that these triple
Yeah, Bonanza
sevens
hits
are
the day
occurring.
before my birthday. I'm excited too. It's gonna be a
Oh,
present to
very cool.
myself.
Happy early birthday to you too. Like we're
Thank
gonna
you.
have a good time that in
Oh
July.
yeah,
Welcome.
gonna be
Um,
monkeying around.
Yep. So as an 80s slash 90s kid, I was first introduced to video games, I guess in like 1987. So I was 4 years old, and it's a combination of playing NES, which I did not own yet, uh, playing a TI 93A computer game console hybrid. If I'm not mistaken, TI 94A, TI 93A. I forgot the name of the machine exactly, but I still have it. It's in my parents' old garage, and you could play very basic games. I mean, Space Invaders was on there, Snake was on there, a couple of other titles, and playing in the arcades. Like, I remember Street Fighter is one of my earliest titles that I played in the arcades, and uh, just loving video games, going to mini golf courses, playing in that arcade, going to a 7-Eleven, seeing what they had, and then eventually getting my own entertainment system in 1989. So I was playing it at some friends' houses up until then. I had my own, TI 93 or 94A little gaming console computer, and then like the enjoying it, but then truly becoming a fan of this industry in '89 with that NES of my own and Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, that combo, that
Oh
awesome
yeah,
cartridge, which I still own to this day on a working
nice.
NES. Like it still works. You got to blow in it once in a while, even if that's not advertised to be something that you should do. I don't know. For
But
some reason,
somehow it
it
works.
works. It
It
works.
does.
But that's what like made me a fan for life. And then that just, yeah, it took off, and I never looked back. And it's kind of poetic justice. Well, I don't know if it's poetic justice is the right term, but it's very fitting that my two loves of life, beyond my family, of course, my wife and kids and parents and stuff like that, but like two loves of life, hobby wise, passion wise, was video games and martial arts. And both of those journeys stayed or started, I should say, in 1987. So that's when I started wrestling before going into Taekwondo, before going into other martial arts. So these days, I have run parallel for the last, 35, 37, 38 years, I guess. Uh, yeah, pretty much that. Of video games and martial arts, training and teaching, being a part of the video game industry, playing and conducting interviews, and going to E3s and operating Q&As, and you know writing for
Mhm.
a online magazine for a little while, Shag Mag, which is a magazine I wrote for from 2020 to 2021. So some of the
Mhm.
video game stuff along the way being self-done, and then some of it being for companies writing. Likewise with the martial arts, some of it being self-taught as a personal trainer for hire, and also, I'm a university professor at California State University of Northridge, where I teach martial arts classes as kinesiology courses. So, yeah, just video games
Right
and
on.
martial arts. You asked me what am I passionate about in life? What's the stereotype that I fit into? I'm as equal parts exercise workout guy. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, as I am totally as video game nerd as you could have. I own it. I'm proud of it. I love it. I think you could absolutely be multiple things in life, and I think it's a good thing to be kind of varied.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Couldn't agree more. I think I first probably started hearing your name sometime in the early 2010s, but I
Cool.
believe we have actually indirectly crossed paths a whole bunch of times before that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it your letter in Nintendo Power number 205's letter column where we were talking about the recently unveiled Wii and you were just and there was the person who wrote the letter was just Paul G. Was that you?
Yes, I'm published in several Nintendo Powers, but
Yes.
that was one of them
Was that
regarding
the first
Wii.
one?
Oh boy, I don't. I have them all still. Problem is, well, it's both a good thing and a bad thing, I guess. I have all couple 112 or so volumes of Nintendo Power, so
Oh yeah,
that's a
tell
good
me
thing.
about it.
The bad thing is, gosh, which issues was I in again? I think I have them with a little bit of a bookmark in because also in
Mhm.
other magazines like Electronic Gaming Monthly, I was publishing those back in the day as well. But like, yeah, in the Nintendo Power, I got a few letters published, and then also they interviewed me once for
Yes.
at the time, it was my video game themed pumpkin carvings, which is kind of
Hmm.
cool because that was a hobby of mine that I started in 1998 with Bowser, if I'm not mistaken, as my first
Oh wow,
one, and then
good one
Mewtwo
to
in
start with.
'99, Majora's Mask in 2000. 2001 was the Nintendo GameCube console itself. I think '02 was Metroid Prime. Like it just goes on and on. So like by the time
Mhm.
2010 or 11 came around, Nintendo Power was like, wow, we found this guy on the internet who has 12 years worth of video game themed pumpkin carvings. And now, I never stopped this hobby. So now I've been doing it for like 26, 27 years
Oh man,
because the
that's amazing.
the 2024 was, I guess, the 26th consecutive year, marking the 25th anniversary. Whatever. Like the number might be slightly off, but yeah, just Mm, they interviewed me for that, so I had a little half page spread
Yeah.
in the back. So that was really cool. And
According to
oh,
my records, I had you down for issue 205 in 2006, talking about the Wii, and then in issue 232, where you were appearing dressed as Ryu,
yes,
also in the community section. And that
yes,
was
the real.
in 2008. And
Uh huh.
then the pumpkin carvings that you mentioned was in issue 260, which just happens to be my all-time favorite issue of Nintendo Power, because that was I think it was the 25th anniversary of the NES, and we got all kinds of cool gaming personalities and non-gaming personalities to talk about NES games. And so just because of getting all that in there, it is my favorite issue that I worked on, and that just happens to be the issue with the pumpkin carvings as well.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Thank you for uh, bringing to my mind what the number of that issue was because that's one of the ones I'm most proud of. Like, that one, and also, being called the real life Ryu and having the Nintendo Power team come up with something funny like, okay, in the event of a zombie apocalypse, we're having you and Chuck Norris lead the way, and like, they're just kind of funny
Yeah.
about it, and it was really cool. And like as you can see, you brought up the real life Ryu thing. There goes what I was saying earlier: martial arts and video games, and
Right, exactly.
Street Fighter being one of my favorite franchises out there. Oh, it's still one of my top 3 of all time, and I've had the pleasure of getting
Mhm.
quite close to Capcom. I don't know if you know this. I mean, this is a fun fact. I am actually this happened before that issue of Nintendo Power. I am a character in Street Fighter.
I do recall hearing that, yes.
Yeah, in
Was it the comic
2000.
book?
So I'm in the comic book also, but I'm also in the game. In 2008, Capcom scanned my face. I did a 360, or well, it was a little bit more than 180. The left side, the front, and the right, and not the back of my head, if I'm not mistaken. But I call it a 360 shots of my face, and they digitally uploaded me, scanned me, put me in the game, which came out I think February 2009. So you could see a picture of
Yeah, this
me,
was Street Fighter 4?
Street Fighter 4, on the left
Okay.
side of the European cruise ship stern, that stage. There's a guy in a blue tuxedo and with kind of blocky hands, but that's me. And I'm an NPC, but I'm cheering on. And it's really cool if you do like a super move close to that part of the stage. I fall off and get a little bit closer to the stage and look and stuff like that. And, I get helped back up, but it's really cool. And you actually unlock me. I think you play like time trial number 3, and it says, "Who's that? Looks like someone snuck on the stage. Play to find out." Or like, "Looks like someone snuck on the stern. Who is it?" And when you play and beat that challenge, that you unlock me in that slot. And uh, as a professor, being able to tell that story to my students and show them this image, they get a kick out of it because
Mhm.
I'm probably one of the more relatable professors I'd imagine that people have. That if you're like this 18 to 24-year-old student, going to university and like Your professor is a character in a video game? What? I mean, for me, gosh, I love it, and it's to this day one of the coolest things that I got to be a part of because I am a video game character. I remember when
That's super cool.
Super when Masahiro Sakurai and Nintendo were having that Super Smash Brothers for Wii U ballot of characters to vote for.
Mhm.
I had it was probably just a dozen or so friends because you could type in any video game character. So some of them
Technically
did.
speaking,
Some of them did type in Paul Gale from Street Fighter 4, and like I remember just cracking up, thinking, they're gonna receive thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of submissions, and they're gonna get their Bayonettas, they're gonna get Shantae, they're gonna get lots of characters, Goku, uh, Cloud, whatever, and then they got to get a few Paul Gale. What the heck? Anyway, just that was a funny thing, but yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I like is that, even though you are part of the industry, you've been, immersed in the industry for, over a decade, multiple decades, you have never stopped being unabashedly a fan. So, where has your fandom taken you recently?
I'm a 1,000% a fan. I am as much of a fan as I am a professional, and in my mind, I am woo screaming with joy at all times, and it never gets old. No matter what event I go to, I am always happy. But I say a professional at the same time because I'm not, you know, exhibiting a freak out or hoarding over somebody or bullying them to do an interview or rush them to do a photo or nothing like that. Just respectable, kind approach. I had the pleasure of going, yearly now to Summer Game Fest. So just a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to reconnect with some old friends and make some new ones. And I got to meet up with Hideo Kojima for the first time in 10 years. And he was there and he was talking to different people, doing little interviews, doing different little pictures. I should say in the after party, Jeff hosts an amazing after party upstairs at the YouTube Theater every year after Summer Game Fest, and it's a really cool spot for just a few dozen people to talk instead of a couple thousand people to interact with. And anyways, like I had the old picture from like E3 2015 with Mr. Kojima and me. And so I was just, waiting patiently as he's talking with other people. And then I came up and then I had the photo on my phone ready. And, I was talking to him and a combination of him and his translator. And he was like, yeah, I remember you from, some time ago. And then I showed the photo. I'm like, yes, this one, E3 is like, wow. And it took back. And we're just talking back and forth. So that's just one cool example of I'm forever in my mind a fan of Hideo Kojima and creating Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 and Snake Eater. But I don't show this, rudeness or anything like, oh,
Mhm.
I deserve to be uh, acknowledged or anything like that. No, just treat everybody like a normal person because they are all
Yeah.
normal people. And like, actually, a lot of the folks in particular from Japan, I would say, they're very humble in their approach and a little bit starstruck of their own stardom. I remember in early days of
It's true.
meeting Mr. Miyamoto at like E3 2003 ish, and now I've met him a couple dozen times over the last 20 something years, and quite a few pictures together. Uh, in that early days, he was kind of surprised of, why do you want to take a picture with me? I'm like, you have no idea. Like, you're Mr. Miyamoto. You're the
Mhm.
Steven Spielberg of video games, or maybe you should say Steven Spielberg is the Mr. Miyamoto of movies. I don't know. Like, that's how high up you are on millions of people and their list, their celebrity, the people who that they respect, and how much inspiration you've given. So, like, and I think Nintendo, realized this after a while. Like, oh, these different places, we have to be careful with just how often these people walk around, publicly to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
rushed and stuff like that. But yeah, going way back, I remember I'm kind of dancing around the question or bouncing around different time periods. But like a good example was I knew already who Mr. Arakawa was, former Nintendo of America president, pre Doug
Mhm.
Bowser, pre Reggie Fils-Aimé,
Yes.
early 2000s, and he had a couple of big security guards walking around him at E3, but I, walked up.
Took them down with a jump kick?
Regular C, you would think that. Regular smile on my face. I'm like, oh, hi, Mr. Arakawa. And the security guards, because I saw from afar, like, oh, not dismantling, but keeping a distance between people that would approach him. And he's like, oh, no. And he said this. He said, oh, no, he's got a nice smile. Let him talk to me. And we talked for several minutes and really appreciated his time. And it was the same approach that I had with Mr. Iwata, late,
Mhm.
great Mr. Iwata. And the 3 or 4 times that I got to meet him, talk to him over the years, just approach with kindness, be, smile, be genuine. Don't push your time anymore. Don't think that you're deserved anything. And then if you get turned down, that's okay. You have to understand from their perspective, they probably get hundreds of these, but just being kind and personable has always worked out for me. And like, whereas my fandom taken me today, kind of the same place. Just anytime getting to meet somebody new, it's the same approach. I'm giddy on the inside. I'm excited and I'm happy, but I'm also calm and cool and collected and just grateful for anybody's time and opportunity and general kindness that goes a long way in my book. And then
Mhm. That's good advice in
once,
general.
absolutely, I think, and then um, once you once you get around that kind of vibe, once you become accustomed to going to events, doing things, having some yeses, having some nos, then you just let everything flow and bounce off and roll, and it's all just uh, one easygoing life approach. You don't stress out if
Mhm.
you don't get this or don't get that. Like, it's all good. There's always another month. There's always another year. There's always another avenue. I was a little
That's true.
starstruck. I got to be a part of the Nintendo Switch 2, or not 2, the Nintendo Switch, gosh, hold on, I'm tongue-tied. The Nintendo Switch in Unexpected Places commercial with John Cena. I got to be a part of that. And here I was, a little starstruck meeting John Cena, like, oh, geez, I'm already a big fan. I already really appreciate this guy's work in the ring, in music, in his
Mhm.
650 plus uh, Make a Wish Foundation request that he's done, which I thought was fantastic. I mean, regardless of how much you like someone for their acting, for their performance, anything, on the outside world, you find out that they're like a legit human being who's kind, who's does something, for the greater good and doesn't necessarily brag about it. Or you find out a story of like Keanu Reeves and how many good things that that person has done who has not wanted to boast about it. The respect level, the attitude that you have for them, at least that I have for them, goes way up. And with like John here, I'm like, I already like this guy a lot, but I don't want to be like this giddy, kid. But I had a big smile on my face. But we had like the coolest, legit 40-minute time hanging out, playing 1-2 Switch together, Breath of the Wild together, a month and a half or so before Nintendo Switch came out back in 17, and just started
Mhm.
talking about normal life and kinesiology and exercise. And oh yeah, my kid's almost here. Like, oh, congrats to Paul and da da da. Like, just yeah, like, be kind, be cool, be grateful for everything, and good things usually happen. I think yeah, if you put out there good things, more often than not, good things will come back to you. Seems to be the way life works.
Mhm. Yep. Good karma. Yeah, the first time
Yeah.
I met John Cena, he was wearing a duck hunt hat, so I knew that he was a good one at that time.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Um, so, loving Nintendo is one thing, and, Kojima and Metal Gear and stuff like that. Everybody knows those names. Everyone loves Nintendo. My mom loves Nintendo. But, indie games is sort of something different. Indie games run a huge
Hmm.
spectrum. Some become huge, some totally fly under the radar. So, why did that become something important to you? Why was spotlighting indie games something that you really wanted to pursue? And how did the whole IndieMania project with Mike Odyssey come about?
Oh yeah, two good questions that kind of roll into each other pretty evenly. Uh, all these years going to E3, there was the West Hall and the South Hall, and then there was Kentia Hall in
Yeah.
between. And it was a smaller place, and a lot of people glanced over it. I had a couple of friends that are like, dude, I'm just going there to play Metroid. I don't care about anything else. Like, don't you want to see this? Nah, I don't care. I just want to go take a picture with Kurt Angle. I don't care. Da, da, da. And like, that was the one stop shop kind of thing. And I knew the power behind Networking. I mean, that's the Paul Gale network was talking. And when I would go to these smaller booths in the smaller hall, or even the smaller booths that are in the south and the west hall, and talking to folks, I saw the passion behind the indie devs. I don't know if we had a name for them, indie devs, like back in the early 2000s necessarily. Probably, but like the name has definitely gotten bigger and good because it brings more attention to this type of developer. But like, not to say more personable, but in a way, you could have greater, longer conversations with smaller teams because they knew kind of not as many people are going to come by and talk to us. Not as many people are going to play our little GBA game or our uh, mobile game. But here, this journalist is coming on behalf of, oh, who are you with? Oh, OneUp.com. Who are you with? Oh, Paul Gale Network. I haven't heard of you. Well, guess what? You haven't heard of me. I haven't heard of you. Let's talk. And getting to have these cool conversations with these smaller devs and have an appreciation for them. And, you know, at a time, becoming a fan of WayForward, which I was kind of introduced to the WayForward team because Mark Bozon, Matt Bozon's brother, he was working for
Mhm.
IGN. I was working for OneUp, and we knew each other, and we'd see each other at various E3s and events over the years. And then, you fast forward some time, and I think the first time I was here, I'm at WayForward Studios right now, by the way, here in, in Valencia. But I think the first time I stepped foot in this building was maybe 2012. So it's been a while, and of course, last year for IndieMania, and now, and just becoming a fan more and more so of this crew, of this team, of what they do, and really appreciating that, appreciating them and their time, back, a decade plus ago, and last year, and then now, and then just along the way, also really becoming a fan of indie games because where they might have had a limitation on budget, you would say, they didn't have a
Mhm.
limitation on creativity. And some of the best games that I've played have been indie titles like uh, Ghost Song came out a couple of years ago. Brilliant game that if you like Metroidvania, if you like Metroid Dread, that's one that I highly recommend. Going back a little bit farther than that, 2020, if I'm not mistaken, my game of the year that year was Hades. And that was an indie game, and that thing was brilliant. So I've been a fan of video game at large for since I was 4 years old, and then indie games basically as long as early back as I could have been playing them, basically like on a Game Boy Color, playing an early Shantae game,
Mhm.
or going to E3 and then meeting the crew and be like, "Wow, you guys are making this DuckTales remastered. Like I love DuckTales," and kind of merging together my fandom of Capcom and this group of WayForward that I'm already, you know, enjoying your guys' works, and now you get to do more and and Switch Force and etc. It,
Mhm.
my love for it was already there, and my acknowledgement of the creativity and what they were offering was already there. And then you kind of fast forward to of the precursor to IndieMania, Mike Odyssey. I was already on his podcast for a while, for a year or so, and then he shared with me an idea.
Okay.
I want to come up with a video game event that is kind of like E3 or a Nintendo Direct that is something that highlights indie developers. And I thought like this is a terrific idea. Like I'm with you. I'm with you there. I love indies. I love indie gaming. So he said it's going to be called IndieMania. There's the website very early on. You know, no developers yet. Probably going to be an online show, podcast style, maybe green screen background, me in Florida, you, Paul, in California. And then maybe we would get, like a dozen or so developers. And that was sort of like small vision to execute because you don't want to
Mhm.
be too ambitious and fall flat, but you do have to have an idea that starts somewhere, and you
Yeah.
can't help but see the bigger picture. But there's always this fine line of seeing the bigger picture but not trying to do too much early on, because I think it's be better to do like a grade A effort in a few things than like a grade C effort in a dozen things. You could get bigger
Sure.
and better and then have a higher grade at more things, but in the beginning, just stay really good at something small. So we started like, you want to be on board? Yep, yep, cool. So we took our initial photos, and then he said, do you have any developer friends that you know that you think would be interested in the show? And that's where I hit the ground running. And I was like, well, let me do what I could do with the PG network of networking. And that's when I, contacted WayForward and Picomi and, Tribute Games. And then, okay, let's have SIBO Industries, a little one-man, two-man team on a first time. So we had
Mhm.
4 different interviews last year for the show. Uh, and, Mike said it would be pretty cool to have uh, some sponsors for the show because, you know, how many people are necessarily going to tune into an indie show? Is it going to be exciting enough? Is it going to be big enough? And we didn't turn down anybody, like unless if it was some obscenely, ridiculously ultra violent game that was beyond M. We didn't turn it down. Unless if it was a game that was
Okay.
made in another game, like if it was a game that was made in, let's say, like Mario Maker or something like that, like okay, we
Okay.
turned that down. But
Yeah, yeah.
otherwise,
Makes sense.
we didn't turn anybody down. Like okay, maybe a little bit of a you don't want people to show up for the wrong reason. Like hey, we're giving away
Mhm.
prizes. Then are people showing up for the prizes, or are they showing up because they care about the games? Well, we had some prizes, so I contacted some good friends, Eric Coe from Udon Entertainment, and Udon did an awesome thing where they gave like a package of graphic novels, pins, comic books, T-shirts,
Mhm.
and
As
I
creator of
was
the
just
Street Fighter comics and many
yeah,
other
absolutely.
cool stuff. Mega Man
Hey,
comic just came
one of
out
the
or is coming
comics that
out
I was
soon.
in. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and that's how I met them was well first they put me in the comic, and then when I went to the E3 to thank them, you know Udon people had already left back to Canada, but I was able to talk to other people, including Taki Inamoto from Capcom, and I got to meet Eric Coe and all those guys from Udon. They're just an awesome group. So
Yep.
originally, when I was reaching out to Udon, was like maybe there's like a sponsorship just to hey be on the show as a fun thing, not even as a giveaway. It was actually his idea to like no let's help out the show and have a giveaway. And then I reached out to Alex Davis from First Four Figures, another friend of like a dozen years or so, just really
Mhm.
awesome person. F for F does brilliant video game statues of
And then
you name it,
I
like
I have a
Mario, Sonic, and
huge,
Zenith.
huge Zelda statue with Link on the horse,
Oh yeah,
behind me
that
right
one.
now.
I have a Link on the King of Red Lions. I have
Nice, nice.
Bowser, Samus Aran. Like I have several. So talking to him online, meeting him at E3, then just asking, hey, would you like to just be a part of the show? Don't have to give anything away. Just maybe be there in some capacity. Heck, for Udon and First for Figures, I was looking at it as like, if you guys want to advertise a product, you are indies in a way, just not video game developers, but indies in
Mhm.
a sense. Either like both of them are like, no man, we're gonna help you out. We're gonna give some gifts. So like First Four Figures, gave away some Mario Kart, Mario and Yoshi statues. So just really cool stuff. And we Mike and I, between the two of us, we know pretty much the same fellow YouTubers. Uh, Andre from Game Explain, Nate from Nintendo Prime, OJ from Player Essence. I'm just name dropping some different fun friends over the years. Andres from Andres Restart, and like different cool folks that, hey, co-stream the event? Yeah, yeah, cool. Came up with a co-streamer content creator initiative.
Mhm.
So if you are being kind enough to help us out and stream the event, because how many people are only going to find IndieMania.net and go there? Probably not.
Sure.
How many are going to go straight to YouTube and type in IndieMania this day? Probably not many. But if there's a dozen or 20 or so content creators that people already follow that say several weeks in advance or several days in advance, hey, I'm going to be streaming this Indie Mania event, September 12th, 13th, 14th. Check it out. And then you get a few hundred people, a couple thousand people. And that was looking pretty good. And Mike said, if we could get it to be seen by, the thousands plural, more than just, a couple thousand, that would be nice. So I reached
Mhm.
out to another longtime friend, Per Schneider from IGN, and he's a fantastic person, awesome. Only nice things to say about Per Schneider, and that's actually like, and see, this is kind of going back to this was the birth of Paul Gale Network. These are people that were kind enough to me, who I was relatively unknown, just I mean, maybe relatively unknown in the grand scheme of the video game industry, but known well enough to small pockets or to these select people that knew me. They got to know me over the years quite well. But then now, learning of them and them learning of me, now they could vouch for me back as I vouch for them. So I reached out to Parrot anyways, like, hey, would IGN be interested in taking on IndieMania? And he's like, I like the idea. Let me forward you to the following team. So I talked to a couple of the guys, Mike and Rob from IGN, talked over several weeks, and boom, IGN picked us up as officially running it as their co-event. So it was on their site, it was on their YouTube
Pretty
channel,
cool.
and that helped IndieMania get bigger. Now, IGN isn't an official co-streamer this year, so
Right.
where that is like oh, that's too bad to lose IGN as not streaming the event this year. What makes up for it in that place is our content creator and initiative is like now up to over 50. Maybe last year we had 12 or so, 14 or so content creators plus IGN. This
Mhm.
time, over 50 people that are signed up to live stream it. And the whole idea
Nice.
from last year was, if you're doing something for us, which is helping us have the show be seen by more people, you 15 or so friends of ours that, do content creation and stream and stuff like that. I was like, Mike was like, let's help you out by getting your photo or getting your logo, sticking it on IndieMania.net with a little bit of a tag, a URL code that you can stick it and bloop, go to your YouTube page, your Twitch page, whatever. So at least, hey, if people are finding our site first, they could find you from us. So kind of like everybody scratching each other's back kind of thing. And yeah, the
Mhm.
event was pretty successful last year. And, you know, this time
Now, you
around,
said that you were hoping for 12 companies to join you last year. What did that number end up
oh,
being?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, gosh. Oh, geez. Oh, I think we had over 80 or something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yeah, like we were thinking, yeah, maybe it would
Pretty
be nice to
crazy.
have four trailers shown a day. Yeah, that'd be okay. Maybe like, yeah, what if we could get to like 15 or 24? Yeah, 24 would be 888. I think that would be good. And then it ended up being something like over 80 trailers,
Crazy. That's awesome.
unless yeah, and some of these were studios like you don't know the happiness, the satisfaction, the thanks that some of these devs had reaching out of you guys know the dream of being on a Nintendo Direct, on a PlayStation, on an Xbox Presents, like that's the dream,
Mhm.
like oh we would never have it. Oh, the fact that we're on your show, they didn't look at us as what is this Indie Mania thing? That's not Jeff Keighley's show. That's not the Game Awards. No, they were like genuinely really appreciative and grateful to be on it. And it's kind of like this, hey, Mike and I putting on a show, and this year, Steve Zimmerman, Thunderstash Gaming, we're
He has a
indie,
fine
and
mustache.
yeah, he does. It's a very fine mustache. We're indie in a sense because we're three men that are putting on a show, interviewing developers, working behind the scenes, camera operating, microphone testing, using some green screen, maybe a little bit of help here and there, but putting a show together by reaching out to developers. And then a lot of developers who saw us last year saying, hey, we want to be on your show because we missed out on it last time around. We don't want to miss out on it this time around. So more people contacting us than us doing the outreach, but still working both ways.
Cool.
But we're indie in a sense. Indie developers are indie in a sense, and then the fellow content creators, they're indie in a sense because they're not CNN, ABC, Fox 11. They are
Sure.
independent YouTubers between 40,000 on the lower end to, you know, uh, Rogers Base. He was, for instance, a part of our show last year. Someone with
Mhm.
400,000, or Kit and Krista approaching 100,000. I think the biggest
Mhm.
content creator that we had was Andre Seegers from Game Explain. I think they have like 1.4 million on their uh, YouTube channel. So
Not too shabby.
nobody, absolutely, nobody's too big, too small, and we wouldn't have a show if it wasn't for developers. The content creators wouldn't have anything to stream that particular Friday if it wasn't for the show. Developers wouldn't have as easy way of presenting the games if it wasn't for the show. So, you know, and then the content creators wouldn't have anything to play if it wasn't for the indie developers to fill up the gaps between these large AAA releases from the big companies because they take longer development cycles. It takes 3-4 years to put out a game instead of 8 to 16 months. So
Mhm.
everybody kind of fit their own role, and we had a successful show last year, and I'm hoping for an even better show this year. And this
Yeah.
year we have, I mean, I don't know if you want to segue into this or whatever, but like this year we have an award that's going to be given off too, which is really,
Yes,
really
I was
cool.
going to ask about that. Now I won't need to.
Oh, yeah.
The IndieMania
Yeah.
Championship belt, right?
Yeah.
Do
Super,
tell.
super cool. Super cool. Mike's a wrestling fan. I'm a wrestling fan. Steve's a wrestling fan. And Mike had
I'm a
thought
reformed
of,
wrestling fan.
you know, hey, it's all good. I mean, as long as you think this belt is cool, that's okay. Uh, Mike thought, beyond having a video game show that highlights the different studios, the different developers, having interviews, having some gifts to give away, and that kind of thing, what about an award that would later on be chosen by the community of what is the best indie game of the year? And so he came up with a little design of the IndieMania logo. Okay, went to a professional shop online to have it being made, arm belts, and came up with this awesome looking thing with some side plates. And on the side plates, I think we're going to go with the game logo on one of the plates and the
Okay.
studio logo on the other side. It's a little bit less symmetrical going that way, but I think it tells a better story of like here's the developer and here is the game itself instead of just having the game on both or the developer on both. And that's really cool. And Mike has that.
Yeah.
Originally, like, so this last year's show was both in person and online. Uh, because Mike did fly out to Los Angeles. And, Adam and Voldy, they teleported. If you remember from
That's
last
right.
year's show, well,
Hmm.
well, I should say Adam drove.
Yeah, I had to drive. Voldy teleported.
Voldy teleported with me to our LA studio location that Mike rented out, and we had a in-person event, and then some of it online. This time around, we were going to have it in person. Things changed a little bit behind the scenes, but we're still putting together an online show, and
Yeah.
with Steve also participating and conducting his own interview, and so it's going to be a fun event. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, we were going to do the whole reason why I brought up the fact that it was going to be in person was we had an idea of like skits that we would do with the belt, like us wrestling for the belt, fighting for the belt, boom, 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 and then like maybe we would have Adam and Voldy come in and be like, "Oh, grab the belt for me," and tug of war back and forth and something like that. Like, whoa, 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 let the fans aside. So we had some fun ideas, but you know, I guess I'm kind of sharing some of the behind the scenes, and maybe we'll see it in a future show. Maybe we'll be back to in person next year. We'll see.
Perhaps so.
That
Yeah.
that
Yeah. I
belt is
hope that we've got
awesome.
a shot at it because I would love to see Matt or Voldy wearing the championship belt. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Definitely.
What else can gamers expect from Indie Mania next week?
Well, we
Just
have.
a
Oh,
sneak
so
peek.
so here's another thing. So, I mean, I hope that people are mostly into it to see games themselves, games that you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. Maybe some titles that you have. I mean, here's another instance. Like you might see some games that you think look really, really cool that you didn't know about. I'm
Hmm.
gonna I'm gonna give a little bit of a shout out, if I may, to Socrates Labs. Doing a little bit of a countdown for them for actually one of their games that comes out, ironically, or not, I don't know, on June 26th called Ruffy and the Riverside. That
Oh yeah.
game,
Seen that around?
we I seeked them out last year, like a couple of years ago even. Jeez, the what you see at IndieMania is several months, if not like a year's work of getting developers on board, curating trailers, making sure audio level is all in sync and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, I found out about Ruffy and the Riverside quite a while ago, and they were one of the closing titles, one of the awesome trailers that we showed off at last year's show on one of our 3 days. Anyways, that game is a lot of people now are having this chatter online of whether they saw it at IndieMania last year first, or saw it somewhere else, or elsewhere on IGN, or a Nintendo presentation on their webpage, whatever. A lot of people now are like, holy cow, this game looks awesome. This is my Mario, my Donkey Kong, my Banjo-Kazooie vibe, and it comes out next week.
Mhm.
If you think that's cool, and some of your audience might be typing that in right now, like, what is this game? That's kind of why we put on this IndieMania show, because you never
Yep,
know
absolutely.
what's going to show up. Like, we hope that, and there's going to be different levels of uh, completion that some of these trailers have. So hopefully people are respectful in their opinions, that, like, if they think something looks a little bit rough, it's not because of the lack of quality or lack of people trying. It's, hey, we want to get this game out and kind of be seen and be shown. So, all right, just give us proper constructive criticism on the gameplay elements, and not like, oh, this game looks lousy, because, hey, these the developers are working hard on it. It takes time.
Mhm.
But we hope anyways that there's going to be something in it for everyone. So I think if you go in with the thought of, I'm looking forward to a good show to see a solid variety of 90 or so different video games, a couple of surprise guests,
Oh, wow.
uh, have fun with it. Not every game is going to resonate with everyone. You'll never have that anywhere. I mean, you'll
This is
never
true.
have you'll never have one game that everyone unanimously loves. Um, I think something will be in it for you, and if that's not enough, you're like, yeah, but I could just wait and watch them later on. Hey, Udon is back as a sponsor, and they're going to be giving away some different Street Fighter, Capcom related merchandise, comic books,
Nice.
T-shirts, graphic novels, pins. So if that has to entice you, that's why I kind of have Udon there, and Eric Cohen folks there are kind enough to join us again. And this is also new. It's still the same person, but a different company. So Alex Davis from First Four Figures, they've got a new company called Figgies. That's F, uppercase F, like lowercase I, GGYZ, if I'm not mistaken. Figgies.
Okay.
And it's a lower cost, lower entry level of type of video game collectible. It's like 2D, hand-drawn, sprite-ish kind of looks of lots of different IP already. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, I think I've seen
Sonic,
some of those
Castlevania,
recently.
Street Fighter, Metal Gear Solid, yeah,
Yeah, I
and
saw the
more are
Metal Gear
coming out.
ones, yeah.
Yeah. So from those same folks that do First Four Figures, it's just a totally different brand called Figgies. Anyways, they're going to be giving out a certain number of Figgies to the audience. So if you have, and there's going to be some
Right
other
on.
prizes too. So if you have something, like last year, Mike also gave away a Steam Deck. So, like, that's a pretty good size, several $100 gift, and some different gamer
Mhm.
chairs. So uh, there'll be some more in lines of that. I mean, you hope people tune in for the right reasons, but you got to be honest with yourself. A little bit of enticing of, hey, there's some cool stuff behind the scenes that, like, have a giveaway. Sometimes that's a little bit needed to bring some more
It
people.
never hurts. It never
Yeah.
hurts.
Is it too late for prizes? We'd love to give you some games to give away during the show.
Oh well, see, that's you've heard it here
We
first.
might have
No, it's
already sent some games to give
There you
away
go.
during the
Yeah.
show, in fact. So,
it,
I'll load you up even more before you leave the studio.
hey, that's cool. I'll keep them in my pocket.
sounds like a
Wait a minute, they're
plan.
digital. Oh, but yeah. So thank you, Adam.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, very cool. We'll be looking forward to that a week from today. I think we're going to move on to the Q&A segment of the show now.
Cool.
Most of the questions that have come in so far seem to be way forward focused, but if anyone out there has questions for Paul about IndieMania or anything else, also don't be fooled by that chat thing that just says it's Adam Way Forward. This is Paul taking over Adam Way Forward's Discord account, so that's why we do not see Paul's name up there. Uh, Adam is being played by Paul today, or is it vice versa? Anyway, yeah, so let's move on to that Q&A and see what we can go through. This first one that we've got is from Fiery Paper Mario, who says, y'all think you'll get a Goemon reboot game anytime soon? And normally I would say, well, that's a question for Konami, but Paul, since you're here, what do you think the chances are of this?
A new Goemon or a Goemon remake?
There's a Goemon reboot.
Goemon reboot. Oh, geez, I wish I could. Okay, there's a game that came out a couple of years ago. I wish I knew the title right now, but it was shown off in the Japanese Nintendo Direct that totally had Goemon vibes. And
There's one that came out like 6 months ago called Bakeru,
that's
and
I believe
it
that's the
looks pretty
one.
cool.
Yes. Yeah. And so I haven't played it myself, unfortunately, but I believe that it has been made available on the Western eShop. Or, I mean, there's always the workaround that you could sign into the Japanese eShop in the US or in
Yeah, it's
Europe,
out there. It's out
wherever.
there.
Yeah. And that had such good vibes that hopefully it sells well enough or has been selling well enough that it inspires Konami that, hey, if there's enough public chatter, let's do it ourselves. Or if Konami isn't as big into making new modern games, let's give it to somebody else that they could take advantage of and do it. Because I like the Goemon franchise. I would be up for playing a new entry or a reboot of some sort. Will it happen? I don't
Mhm.
know, but I have learned to almost not omit anything in the industry. This is a little bit
Mhm. I
a
mean,
little
hey,
bit
they
side.
bringing back Stewie Coden, and I didn't think that was going to happen. So,
Did 1992 Paul think that Nintendo and Sega would be partners one day? Did I think that Nintendo would ever let Rare go to Microsoft? Did I ever think that Microsoft would spend $70 billion on buying Activision? Like none of those things that I would have predicted. So Goemon, a franchise that's been dormant for a while, never coming back? I don't think so. I think it will. It's just a matter of how long are you willing to keep the hope alive? I say always keep the hope alive.
all right, good answer. Next question is from Am I Not Turtly Enough for the Turtle Club? Uh, is Marble Knights ever coming back as it has been discontinued from mobile? And the answer to that, Adam, you can jump in if you want. But I mean, yes, it is no longer on Apple Arcade. We are looking into bringing it back in some other manner, whether that's on PC or consoles or mobile. Nothing to announce at this time. But ever so long time, we would love to see it come back. Hopefully, that's something we can make into a reality in the not terribly distant future.
Yeah, it's part of a lot of conversations right now. I think everyone's going to be playing it in the near future. Nothing to announce today, but we definitely want to get that one back out there and get it on as many platforms as possible.
Okay. Thanks for adding to that. On to the next one from Wild Cameron, who asks, any chances of Shantae having a 3D platformer or still keeping Shantae strictly 2D or 2.5D? We kind of answered this one last week, but Adam, if you want to elaborate for our audience this week, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's always a question for Matt Bozon as the co-creator and series director, but he likes all versions. So we've had conversations. I know he has explored the idea of doing full 3D stuff. We've already had 3D hybrid stuff like Half Genie Hero. So I think it's all just eventually going to happen. I know he still loves working in 2D, but I know he's a big fan of 3D games as well. So I think it's all going to happen.
Yeah, there's definitely a chance. Nothing to confirm or anything even close to confirm, but there's always a chance. Next one from Mr. Meteor 64. Will Risky Boots get her own game a prequel? And of course, that is also a question for Matt, but I think we've been talking more about Risky Boots. There might be something. Who knows? It'd be cool.
What can they, if they want a more risky adventure, what can they play right now, Hoff?
I mean, right now you can play Pirate Queen's Quest on Half Genie Hero Ultimate Edition, or as DLC for regular Half Genie Hero. But could there be more in the future? That would certainly be rad. Next question from Antonio Lopez Leon Productions. Are there going to be any male bosses in the Shantae games? The answer is definitely yes. There's actually a lot of them already. Pirate Master was the boss of the third game. All the Barons are male: Squid Baron and Ammo Baron and what's the alligator guy's name? Techno Baron, um, Hypno Baron. Yeah, most of them are male actually, and some of the bosses. If people have played Shantae Advance, they'll know there are some male bosses in there as well. So if you haven't played on GBA yet, please look forward to the console and PC version coming out this summer. Am I Not Turtly Enough for the Turtle Club has the next one. If you could make a licensed game on any movie or series, what would it be? Paul, how would you answer this question?
Hmm. One more time.
If you could make a licensed game on any movie or series, what would it be? Or maybe if you wouldn't make it, you could will it into existence and have someone else make it.
I'm trying to think what doesn't exist that's already out there that
Not much.
I love so much. Everything is
I mean, there are definitely a lot out there, but a lot of them, could deserve to be
Uh,
revisited.
this this uh,
Throw it out there.
I don't know if it's. I mean, okay. Well, I feel silly saying this because I shouldn't, because it's so obvious, but maybe not because it's so hard. I'm just gonna say Superman. I am a
Mm.
huge
Yeah.
Superman fan, and I guess maybe I don't feel so silly saying it. I mean, it's such a huge IP that saying the word is like, really, Superman? You can't think of anything else? But I'm like, no. In this
Superman
case,
64
it
remake,
goes back
HD
to that,
remaster.
like, oh my gosh, that's what we need. That's what the world needs. But like, call me boring, whatever. Superman's my favorite hero. He goes way back to my youth. I like the character. I'm still a fan. I don't think he's too overpowered. I don't think Kryptonite only is boring. I think him being good and stuff like that. I love it. I love the character. I love what he stands for. I mean, and I love all
Mhm.
plenty of characters. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Batman, Spider-Man, the entire X-Men cast. I love what MCU has done and is doing, and I'm looking forward to other DC projects. I was a fan of the CW shows. I mean, everything of different quality. The things on Max, Peacemaker. I'm a fan of so much out there. It's that's a different part of me. But like, well, all side note, be a fan of as many things as you can in life. And you're never bored.
This is
Don't
true.
don't discredit any type of medium and think that music's not for me, games aren't for me, comics aren't for me, cards aren't for me, um, cartoons aren't for me, board games aren't for me, drawing's not for me, gardening's not for me, working out's not for me, martial arts aren't for me. No, try a little bit of everything. If so many people are interested, if things exist because they have such huge fan bases, it can't be all that bad. So give it a shot and you're never bored with anything. So, anyways, now coming back to superheroes, I love so much of so many different things for so many different reasons that I'm happy with what I have now, and I would have never thought like 10-year-old me that we'd have this many movies and TV shows to choose from, right? It's almost too
Mhm.
much. You almost can't watch everything. But anyways, going back to Superman, like it's been so long since we've had a Superman game. I mean, I think Superman Returns might have been the last one for like Xbox 360,
Yep.
PlayStation 3 era. Jeez.
Which had really good flight. The missions were a little dodgy, but that was an interesting one. I still have it. I still play it sometimes. It was by the same devs as Madden. If you look at their
Mm.
credits, it's like Madden, 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 and then a handful of Superman games. But I think the flying, just flying around the city, was so fun in that game.
And I'm sure, yeah, it was, and I'm sure it's more difficult. I mean, here I'm not a developer. I don't know programming and all that. I'm sure it's more difficult than just increase the speed of Batman's flight a little more than he is in Arkham Knight. We'll just do this a little bit more with the hit points that to modify and I know there's more to it, but gosh, would I have loved at some point in the last dozen years for Rocksteady to take the mantle and make a Superman game. Find out how to make it work. Give them the budget, give them the time. Don't put on any kind of limitation with creativity. Experiment. Maybe instead of a game where Superman's only weakness is kryptonite, time is his weakness. It is balancing out what are you supposed to do in the world when you're having so many things and make it to you have to make decisions and you will upset different countries by not flying to them in their time of need for this person reaching out and yelling for help and this natural disaster being more important to you to save 20,000 people than this one assassination attempt going on in this city and that creating some kind of war turmoil and having a branching path of eventually that's going to create some bad guys and like so have time kind of be your enemy and not kryptonite but do have super overpowered bad guys have that in there have you know robotic foes so that you could destroy plenty because you're not going to be killing regular civilians and have some crazy kind of missions where Clark is hearing things in outer space light years away and like what and now I have to do that later on in the game and like go flying off to another planet and be like it's a long distance Green Lantern saying Superman, I need your help. And bam, and Clark leaving. Or like, damn, I'm just getting pumped up just talking about that because I freaking love Superman. Like, can it be done? Gosh, it could be done.
It should be.
It should be. It'd be so cool. You know, gaming games take too long to make big games these days that what we don't have that we didn't have since like the GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2 era were games that kind of lined up with movie releases. You used to have Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Did you
Mhm.
remember King Kong? Peter Jackson's King Kong, the video game? Gosh, that thing
Yep.
I
was
mean,
awesome.
WayForward was kind of the masters of that, of getting the licensed games out back in the old GBA DS days. So boy, do we ever.
Yeah, and like even what you did with the Mummy Demastered, that's like another great one, or taking on Godzilla, and different things that I still think hold a place that there's enough of a fandom that hey, if people are showing up to the movies, they show up to the games. Not
Mhm.
necessarily could every movie launch with a game, but some of the big ones. I mean, if I were Warner Brothers and if I'm trying to start up a new DC universe, leaving behind the Man of Steel verse, you know, for what it was, the good, the bad, the whatever. Like, I still enjoyed my time with it. Starting off something new with David Cornsweet. We got a new Superman movie, July 11th. I would have thought, dang, 6 years ago, we would have said, hey, you need to get a studio together. Rocksteady, clear your schedules. Or somebody, WB Montreal, clear your schedules. We need a Superman game. Not to tie into the movie, but just something to come out kind of alongside this movie
Mhm.
that like a September release, a big November release, so we could launch off a new campaign and make Superman cool again and more modern and approachable and don't change the character too much. Anyway, so sorry, I'm going off long. Like one person asked in the chat what movie or TV show when I created the game, and like you got me rolling on soups because I have my Ninja Turtles, I have my Batman. Insomniac Games does a terrific job with Spider-Man. I'm gonna get Wolverine, in a couple of years probably. So we're eating pretty good for the most part.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree
Mhm.
with
Yep. Good
Superman,
ideas. Good
and
answer.
I was gonna say with Superman, if you're doing a new one, play up the Clark Superman thing. That's something they rarely
Oh,
did, but I remember way back with I believe it was the Atari 2600 game. That was one of the fun things is looking for the phone booth, going in the phone booth as Clark, coming out as Superman. That's not something that I really remember them focusing on in the other games, but you got to play that if you do another Superman game. It's got to be a big part of it.
good point. I mean, that goes really well with the little idea I had of have him make difficult time-based
Yes.
decisions. Now you've got another thing because you've got the Clark Kent dilemma, and you might think, oh, is it going to be fun to type at a computer desk and stuff? Yeah, you could make it fun. You could kind of make it fun, and you could make it interesting of decisions that he has to make and answering these questions and not to lie to Jimmy Olsen
Yeah.
of what he's doing right now, not to lie to Perry White, but like having to conduct his interview over here. And as he's walking to Lex Luthor as Clark Kent to do an interview somewhere off in California, 3,000 miles away, there's a thing going on. And how do you map? Damn it! It could happen. I'm hitting this desk right now gently because it's glass and I don't want to break it. But like the the cool factor that Adam just added with a Clark Kent thing. Come on, someone listening right now.
Someone go make it.
Someone listening. Come on,
Only when you're a
clip
game dev
this.
studio.
Clip the last 15 minutes of this. You know,
Call us WB. We're down. We'll do it.
WB, WayForward, they already have the good idea. I mean, they even have me as a consultant.
There you go.
WB, let's do it.
Okay,
Well, you
I'm
know what?
moving on to the next.
I should,
Am I moving
I
on to the
should,
next question? I don't know.
I should use the Paul Gale network approach, and maybe I should reach out to WB and say, hey,
Hey, we're down.
I've got. I mean, that's what I did.
Yeah. Let's make it
That's
happen,
what I
Paul.
do. All right.
Okay, moving to the
All right.
next question from Tanos, who asks, "Will there be an FPS update for Mummy Demastered on Switch 2?" And the answer is we do not have any plans for that this time. I actually think it runs, great on Switch 1, and as far as I know, it is fully compatible. So we have no plans for that at this time. But you can download it and play it on your Switch 2 regardless. Next one is from Chaos Hydranoid, who asks, "Any info or thoughts on the Shantae Watch Quest game?"
Yeah, I mean that was an interesting one. I think it's another one where we need to talk to Matt and see if he wants to do something like that. I think he would probably love to do similarly very simple games. I don't know if we would, revisit that version specifically, which was kind of Hoff, almost kind of like LARPing variations of the Shantae characters, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, but who knows? Anything is possible.
Yeah, no plans to revisit that one at the moment, but you never know. It'd be cool. I never even got a chance to play that one. I never owned a Apple Watch, so I would like to have an excuse. Um, let's see. Uh, Flaming One Up asks if you could add that WayForward flair to another existing series, what would you choose? That's kind of like the one we just covered, but do either of you have anything else to add to that? I'm gonna think
You know
about
what
it
I
too.
you know what I would like to see WayForward do? Specifically WayForward.
Sure.
I
Hmm.
mean, gosh, this is a I pitched an idea to Capcom back in the day, and that was to have a action adventure Street Fighter game.
Hmm.
And it was actually being considered. It was going through the younger journey of Ryu and Ken training in the woods, competing under Master Goken in their dojo, fetching water, kind of like watch the Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, and start off playing the game in that kind of teenage-ish era of Ryu and Ken. And it could be a 3D game, but it could be a 2D game, and it could be hand-drawn, pixely art, or it doesn't matter too much the art approach. But have it be an action or action adventure game. Go through the story, pick a path, Ryu or Ken, go through Japan, go through different territories, fight some thugs along the way, get up to Dalzim, Zangief, Blanca. Get through some of them, but play it through in an action adventure type of game, learning different moves along the way, developing the Hadoken, the Shoryuken, the Tatsumaki Senfugaku, punch, kick, beat up baddies, have fun little mini games, tap the A button a bunch of times to do this. Different types of fun things. And like, gosh, nowadays you could throw in motion controls. You could do so much more. So this is like I said, I pitched this to Capcom like back in 2003 or four. We had a great conversation going on it, and other ones, but the other ones I don't think I could talk about on air, but this one I can. And it never happened, but it was thought
Hmm.
about, and they liked the idea. But I'm looking at Shantae, and even in our interview earlier when we were talking, I was thinking a little bit of Street Fighter, but I mentioned Mega Man of like
Yeah, yeah.
where she
Matt
would win.
Bozon, our creative director, is a huge Street Fighter 6 fan. So
Oh yeah,
definitely that'd be at the top of our list. Someone else in the chat just mentioned Darkstalkers. I think that'd be a really good
Oh
fit
yeah,
for Way Forward.
I'd love to
And
bring
then
back
yeah.
Darkstalkers. That'd be so
yeah, we
cool.
would be. I think we'd be a good fit for that. And then there's just ones we love. Like we would love to do a Dig Dug game. We would love to do a Bubble Bobble game. Just like any of those classic '80s arcade character-driven series for sure.
I think my personal vote would be for Bad Dudes Revival.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Badder Dudes.
No, way forward. Street Fighter action adventure beat 'em up.
We'll do that one too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Call
it's
us
on the list.
Capcom.
Man, and like it already fits too. Like Final Fight takes place in Metro City, and you've got Metro City being a big prominent part of Street Fighter 6, so those universes already intact. I mean, even like Chun Li and Guile were guest appearances, cameos in like I think Final Fight 2, if I'm not
Yep,
mistaken.
yep,
So,
they were
yeah,
indeed.
it's time to do it. But more so than beat 'em up, a little bit of story action adventure, kind of like some slight RPG elements, so that you could uh, build up. Do you want to have more projectile? Do you want to have more defense? Do you want to have more kata forms? I could help you with the Shotokan karate katas and get those authentic in there.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Like,
Definitely.
oh come on, we got Superman today and Street
We're
Fighter by
green
Way
lighting
Forward.
projects left and right.
We're doing it. We're gonna take this podcast and send it over to WB and send it to Capcom right when we're done.
All right, sounds good. All right, Hoff next.
Okay, all right. Lazy Clay Gamer says, "Hello, how is everyone doing today? Both in the podcast and in the chats."
Good. Yeah, we've been hanging out
I'm
with
doing
Paul.
95% personally.
Yeah,
That's
we
pretty
had
good.
a great interview with him and showed him around the studio and hopped on this podcast. It's been really fun today.
That's been really fun. Great weather today. It's cooled off a little bit here in California, and awesome interview with these three. And really fun being online with you and everybody in the chat right now.
Okay, cool. We have another one from Am I Not Turtly Enough for the Turtle Club, who asks, will Wonder Momo Typhoon Booster ever be released on Steam or consoles, as it was removed from both Google Play and Mac OS App Store?
That's another one we're definitely interested in because I think it feels very WayForwardy. You can't play it now.
Mhm.
I think it's possible. We're not in active discussions on it right now, but the fact that it is owned by our friends at Bandai Namco and we just did a deal with them for Sigma Star Saga, I think that makes it very possible.
All right, I'll keep crossing my fingers for that. We have our next one from Lazy Clay Gamer, who asks, any announcement for physical releases of games on Xbox by any chance?
Yeah, I mean,
And
well, we're always, we're not the physical publisher, so we always have to
right.
coordinate with our friends at places like Limited Run and Super Deluxe and Amusio and all the other places. So we're always pushing for it. Know that we'll always put it on digital, and as much as possible, we try to work with those partners and encourage them to do physical on all the platforms. So yeah,
Mhm.
hopefully we'll get more and more of those out there. We love our Xbox fans. We want to get you guys everything that you're hoping for.
I can confirm that we are in talks for more physical Xbox games. Next one from Microwave Media. Will there be any new Mighty Switch Force games or content?
It's a very frequent topic recently within the studio that we need to do more with that brand and get Patricia Wagon back and revisit it because it's been too long. So I think nothing to announce now, but I think a year from now, you hopefully we'll have some cool stuff that we could show off.
Okay. And then another one from Microwaved Media. Will you fellas ever make more merchandise for your games? Plushies, pins, figures, etc.
Yes, we're focusing on that a lot right now, especially plushies. Hoff knows at least one plushie that we're planning right now, trying to figure out how we're going to do it. But it's something that we want to do more of. We love the ones that we've got so far with partners like Fangamer and LRG and Symbiote Studios, and we want to do more of those. So more merch, more plushes. I think that's going to be a major focus of us in the back half of this year.
Maybe I introduce you to Alex and you have a Shantae Figgies.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, we'll do as much. We want to do as much merch as possible.
Yeah. She would fit great.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see why anybody would not want to buy that. And I would.
Okay, the next one. Let's see, Mr. Meteor 64. Are there any franchises you would like to work on? I've already covered that, so I will move on to the following one. Any more classics from Capcom for a possible remake? Well, we kind of already covered that too. I don't know if there's anything else we have to add to that question, but Paul or Adam, anything else you want to say about that?
I mean, Matt would always love to do a Mega Man. Mega Man is probably at the top of our list, if not at the very close to the top of our list of brands we'd want to work with. So fingers crossed,
Yeah, we'd
maybe
love
one
to.
day, yeah, maybe one day there could be a Way Forward Mega Man game.
You let WayForward have their own Mega Man game from scratch, or do what they did for DuckTales remastered for Mega Man 2
Yes.
or something. Dang. Oh, I'd be signed up for either one.
We love the Matt and I love the Powered Up on PSP, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the crime is that they only did Mega Man 1. I mean, so
that's
I think
right.
that's what people want to see. People want to see Powered Up for Mega Man 2. People definitely want to see Mega Man Legends 3. There's a lot of good possibilities out there.
That would be awesome. Okay, next one from the question mark man. When are you going to release Shantae Risky Revolution on Limited Run Games website? I'm a huge Shantae fan. Cannot wait to play it on my Switch too. And the answer to that is we'll have to wait for Limited Run to make an announcement since they're the publisher. But, we have confirmed that the game is scheduled to be out this summer. So, keep your eyes and ears open. And, sometime in the next couple of months, we'll probably have an update for you on this. Then we have one from Lifetime 2D Art. Would you be open to accepting game pitches and collabs from other indie devs? And the answer is, as far as game pitches go, you'd have to go through like proper game dev channels, or yeah, they kind of have to go through you. If we just get them publicly and sent to us, usually we can't look at them because suddenly it becomes like a legal quagmire, and we have to like just you know ignore that email. It's like, well, what if we were to make something that was like that, and someone some weird stuff could happen. But if it goes through biz dev sort of thing, I think it's possible. Adam, you want to elaborate
Yeah,
on that?
I think there's an important distinction. So we really don't have a need for, hey, here's my idea, WayForward, please make this idea. Like we've
Right.
got,
This is very true.
hundreds of games that we're waiting to make already that we love the creative on, that we have concept art. What we are always open to is collaborating with external creators. So if there's a studio that wants to make a game and they want WayForward to publish it, absolutely hit us up. If there's an artist that has a unique character and they want to do more stuff with that, hit us up. Or if they want to just illustrate for WayForward, hit us up. But I think the one thing is the idea of, hey, I've got an idea. Will you guys make my idea? That's not something that we're interested in at this point. We would only be interested in either helping out others in terms of publishing games that are done externally, which we've done a few times with Dawn of the Monsters and Lunark and several of our titles over the past couple of years. That would be more the collaboration that we'd be open to.
All right. Thank you for that great explanation. I think that's all we're going to have time for today, but I will ask one more question of Paul, which is, have you ever considered beating the crap out of a car with your bare hands like in Street Fighter 2, and what would the car have to do to deserve it?
uh, yeah, I'd consider it. What would it have to do? Oof, I could go a dark direction, but I'll keep it light because like if the car if the car ran over legitimately a family member of mine, uh, I think the car would deserve to get beat up. But to keep it light, a little bit less morbid, I guess if it was my own car and it finally died out, you know, it didn't last any longer,
It betrayed
unsafe to
you.
drive, it betrayed me. It had its last oil change, it had its last tune up, and it just didn't work anymore. And like here I am with this car, no one's gonna buy it because it's toast. I guess I would beat it up. So that's actually probably what I will do with my car. I'll probably retire it by putting on some hand wraps and punching, kicking it, and making a video out of it. At least get some content, you know.
And especially if there's a giant 30-second timer floating in the sky above it. That's good incentive as well, right?
Yeah, if time's on the
Mhm.
line, I'm gonna have to do it.
And then once you destroyed your own car, you have to like fall to your knees and go, "Oh my car."
Go back home and become a family man again. Oh, that was Giles
All
ending,
right.
right? I think so.
Yes.
Good ending.
Okay, and with that question answered, I think that wraps us up for today. So thank you so much to Paul for joining us. Thank you to Adam as well for joining in. Thank you to everyone who listened and asked questions. Once again, you can catch IndieMania 2025 next Thursday, June 26th at 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. After that, in about 2 weeks, you'll be able to join us, WayForward, at Anime Expo in Los Angeles at the WayForward panel on the evening of July 4th, where we'll have behind the scenes info and reveals and trivia and giveaways and other cool stuff. Any
We just
closing
we just
remarks that either of you guys want to make before we sign off?
Yeah, come join us at Anime Expo. We have a really cool giveaway. That we just gave one to Paul. It's on the table in front of him right now. But if you come, you will get something that nobody else has that's WayForward specific for our Anime Expo attendees. So definitely come out this year. It's going to be awesome. This is our third year in a row. And thank you so much, Paul, for including us again in IndieMania. It's always such a pleasure to be a part of this.
No, thank you for being a part of the show. You know, we wouldn't have a show to have if we didn't have awesome partners, friends like you all, and we appreciate you. So thank you for having me today. Thank you for being a part of Indie Mania, and you're welcome right back. And thanks for the interview earlier. I'm looking forward to seeing people's thoughts on it.
Definitely. Thanks again.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the show next week myself. So, with that said, that is a show. Thank you again, everybody, and we will catch you next time.